Okay, we are moving on to our second lesson in our algebra unit, and we're going to solve two-step equations. You can solve two-step equations. That's what you can do. That means you have to do two things to get the variable by itself. One-step equations, you do one thing. Two-step, you do two things. Okay, so you're going to move what is not connected first. That's the first thing you do. You move what's not connected first, and then you're going to move what is connected. So I don't have this aligned very well. Oh man, I really don't have that aligned good. So when I look at that equation, 4x minus 5 equals 15, what's not connected is that 5. That's not sticking to the x. That's the first thing I'm going to move. So I would move that 5, and then I would move the 4. So you move what isn't sticking to it, and then what is sticking to it. What's not connected to it, the 5. What is connected to it, the 4. For example, 4x minus 8 equals negative 2. I'd move this first. I'd move that negative 8 first, and then move the 4. 5x minus 2 equals 1. What would I move first?
2.
I'd move the 2 for negative 2 first, and then what would I move?
The 5.
Thanks, Ethan. I want more people to participate. Negative 8 plus x, 2x equals
2.
8. What would I move first?
8.
I'd move the negative 8 first, because that's not sticking to it, and then I'd move the 2. So you always move what's not sticking to it first, followed by what's sticking to it. All right, first example. 3x plus 2 is 17.
2.
So what I'm going to do first is look at it and say, okay, what's not sticking to it? The 2 is not sticking to it. I'm going to move that first. So by properties of equality. So this is plus 2. I'm going to subtract 2. I need to do it to both sides to maintain that equality. And you get 3x equals 15. Now I can move what's connected to it. Divide through by 3, because that's the inverse. X is 5. And you know when you're done when the variable's by itself. Because remember, we defined solving as a variable being all by itself. That's how you solve. Negative x over 3 minus 3 equals negative 10. Plus a negative. That's always the first thing. And then again, if you get stuck on do I move the 3, which 3 do I move first, you're supposed to move what is not connected to the variable first. So what's not connected to the x is the negative 3. So now I'm going to plus 3 to both sides because I have to do the inverse. I get negative x over 3 equals, do I add or subtract these? I subtract because they're different. I have a negative and a positive, so you subtract them. 10 minus 3 is 7, and you'd make it negative because there's more. Okay? Now this is x divided by 3. So to get rid of divide, I multiply. That cancels that 3 out, and I get negative x equals negative 21. Is x by itself?
Yes.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's 1.
What's by it?
Negative.
The negative. I need to get rid of that negative. So I'm going to divide through by a negative 1. X is a positive 21. Okay? So when x is alone, x is alone. There's no negatives by it. All right, the last thing we're going to do today is talk about if there's two operating signs in the middle. If there's two signs in the middle, I want you to first turn it to plus plus if you need to. And you do that if it looks like this, minus a negative 4. That's a plus plus situation because those two negatives are sticking. There's no number in between them. If you can't plus plus, then you do the inverse of the second sign. So box off second. It's not the first. Well, you can do the inverse of the first sign. It just makes it more difficult though. 2 is equal to 22. Do I plus this? Yes or no?
No.
No, because then it doesn't look like this. So I'm gonna do this second strategy where I'm doing the inverse of the second operating sign. So plus a negative.
2.
So what I'm gonna do is add 2 to both sides. 4x equals 24. Divide by 4, divide by 4, x is 6. And I'm dividing by 4 because it was 4 times x is 24. The inverse of times is 2 divided. Okay,
Now you plus.
4x minus a negative 5 is 29. I always say, do I turn it to plus plus? Yep, I sure do. So that is 4x plus 5 is 29. Now what's the inverse of plus? Subtract 5 to both sides. 4x equals 24 again. That's 4 times x.
It's 6.
To get rid of times, you divide. And x is equal to 6.
Weird.
All right, the next one, again, the first thing that goes in my mind is, can I turn it to plus plus? So I have negative x minus a negative 32 is equal to 1. I can turn this to plus plus. I like to rewrite it so it doesn't look so confusing. Negative x plus 32 is 1. The inverse of adding 32 is to subtract 32. To both sides, maintaining that equality, that's the subtraction property of equality. Negative x is left. Cancel, equal sign. 1 minus 32 is negative 31. Am I done?
No.
I gotta get rid of that negative. So I'm gonna divide both sides by a negative 1, and you get x equals a positive 31. Okay, this next one, I don't need to plus plus it, so I'm doing the inverse of that second sign. So I'm gonna plus 22 to both sides, and I get 5x equals, now I subtract these because they're different signs, so I need to do a little math on the side. That's 7, and I have more positives, so it would be a positive 7. That's 5 times x. To move times, I divide. And you get x is 7/5. Okay? And that is it.